Have you ever wondered how one nation can build bridges and burn them at the same time? China's rise on the global stage is one of the most remarkable economic transformations in history. But behind the highways, ports, and railroads it funds around the world lies a growing tide of suspicion, backlash, and resistance. Today, we're diving into one of the most pressing global debates of our time, China's global expansion and the resentment it sparks. Over the last 2 decades, China has gone from being the world's factory to one of its biggest investors. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, what some call the most ambitious infrastructure project ever launched, China has poured billions into developing nations, building roads in Africa, ports in South Asia, and railways in Eastern Europe. The idea? A win-win cooperation. China gets access to markets and resources, and host countries get much-needed infrastructure. But critics argue it's not that simple. As Chinese investment flows into these regions, so do its workers, companies, and, increasingly, its political influence. Local industries feel threatened, governments grow uneasy, and public protests emerge. What began as economic support is now being called a form of debt-trap diplomacy, where countries become so financially tied to China that they lose control over strategic assets. Take Sri Lanka, for example. In 2017, unable to repay its Chinese loans, the country handed over control of the Hambantota port to China on a 99-year lease. In Africa, some nations are reevaluating Chinese partnerships due to concerns about labor practices and environmental damage. Even in Europe, where Chinese investments initially received warm welcomes, politicians are now wary, citing concerns over data security and foreign influence. What makes the China dilemma more complex is the contrast between perception and reality. Many of the countries working with China still need its investment. They see results: roads completed, buildings constructed, jobs created. But that short-term gain is increasingly weighed against long-term risks: sovereignty, sustainability, and social stability. Meanwhile, China argues it's merely doing what Western powers have done for centuries, using its economic strength to expand its reach. But the world is different now. With global interconnectivity comes transparency and scrutiny. Countries, especially in the global south, are more vocal and empowered. They're no longer just recipients. They are critics, negotiators, and actors in their own right. And here's where it gets personal for many around the globe. The China dilemma isn't just about governments and corporations. It's about people, locals who lose jobs, small businesses that can't compete, communities that see landscapes transformed overnight. The resentment isn't born from one action, but from years of unbalanced power dynamics and unmet promises. So what's the solution? Isolation is not realistic. Global trade, investment, and diplomacy are necessary. But they must come with transparency, mutual respect, and a deeper understanding of local needs. If China wants to lead, it must listen. And if the world wants to engage, it must negotiate, not just accept. The China dilemma is not black and white. It's complex, layered, and deeply human. As global citizens, we must ask harder questions. Who truly benefits? What's at stake? And how do we move forward together? If this video gave you a new perspective or raised questions you hadn't thought of, consider subscribing. Not just to support the channel, but to stay informed, stay curious, and stay part of the conversation. Because the world isn't just watching China, it's trying to understand it. Thanks for watching.